to every Australian out there watching, because I hope you're watching what Senator Hanson's doing. She's holding up business of the day because she is obsessed with me.
Senator Hanson.
I've written to the Senator with regards to Senator Payman and her eligibility in this parliament. I have received a letter back from the President with regards to this, and I believe that this documentation should be tabled there in Hansard for everyone to see and know what this correspondence is about. I am moving a notice motion for it to be put to the vote by the Parliament. Under the situation, what happened with many senators in this place, regardless of what political party, our right to, under Section 44 to stand in this Parliament. Why is someone being treated totally different than every other senator in this place?
Clearly, when the Labor Party put me up as a candidate, they did their homework, and here it is. Here's the advice, Senator Hanson. Do you want to see it for yourself? Because no, you're in absolute denial. All that Senator Hanson does in this place is spread hatred, spread division. I am very honoured that I live rent-free in Senator Hanson's mind, but I think you've got better things to do than worry about Section 44 here when there's nothing to see. I mean, the racism and comments and quotes that you've made in the past.
Senator Hanson.
I want to withdraw that racism. It's not racism. I want it withdrawn.
I will withdraw so I can proceed.
Now proceed.
Thank you. Senator Hanson's quote, "I challenge anyone to tell me one thing that I've said that is racist." And here I begin. There's a few. There's so many, we could be here all day. She has said, "I believe we're in danger of being swamped by Asians," in her first speech. In 1998 policy speech, she says Aboriginality would no longer exist under her party's policies. In another statement, she says, "We're bringing in people from South Africa at the moment. There's a huge amount coming into Australia who have disease. They've got AIDS. If that is not racist, what is it?" Oh, it's not racist. Oh, somebody bring the dictionary, because Senator Hanson does not know the definition of racism. The fact that you would say just weeks ago to Senator Faruqi, "Piss off back to Pakistan," you're not just vindictive, mean, nasty, you bring disgrace to the human race. I kept on giving you the benefit of the doubt, Senator Hanson, despite your repetitive attempts to be racist to anyone who does not look like you.
You are a convicted
Senator Hanson, point of order.
Racist.
Is Senator Hanson?
Yes, I do, and I want these comments about calling me racist
You're a convicted
withdrawn.
racist.
For the benefit of this chamber, I will withdraw. But you know what, Senator Hanson? How do you live with yourself, Senator Hanson?
A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are watching us from. This is Awakened Africa and I'm your host, Bemu. So in our today's video, we're going to be talking about something that I never knew that was happening. Actually, I didn't know that there was a lot of this stuff that I'm about to mention. There is a lot of racism in Australia. A lot of racism in Australia, and I never expected it actually until I bumped into a certain video whereby there was a senator who was, I think Senator Fatma, who was talking about the misconduct of Senator Hanson about her sentiments towards the Aboriginals, towards the Arabs, towards the Asians, towards the Palestinians, and most probably towards the black people. So her sentiments were so racist. I want us to watch the videos whereby different people were giving their experiences about racism, how they faced racism in Australia, and this thing cuts across all the people of color, the Arabs, the Asians, the Indians, there are black people, the Aboriginals themselves. So let us watch these videos, and then I'll be back so that we can discuss more about them. But in the meantime, if you're new to this channel, I'll ask you most definitely to subscribe the channel, like this video, and share it to as many people as you can, because when you do that, the algorithm of YouTube will favor me so that we can have this conversation at a greater level. Let us watch the video.
Growing up, being black in Australia, we deal with it everyday life. Just it happens every day, and I try to educate the football clubs on these are the barriers Aboriginal AFL players have to deal with. We can't just rock up the footy and just play footy. Like, you can rock up and you can just play, you can enjoy it, but we got to worry about being pulled over by the police for no good reason, being followed in a shop from a security guard, which still happens, to being open up your social media and then seeing racist comments on your social media. These are the barriers that we face in our everyday life. I had a banana thrown at me on the footy field, calling me all these names, and after that I just felt like I had enough. I needed someone to speak to, and I employed Jeremy Droncock as the indigenous liaison officer at the football club, which helped me so much, where when he got into that football club, I had someone to talk to, someone that could relate to me. I could kind of let my hair down a little bit and open up a bit more on the way that I'm feeling, because I'm still trying to stay strong for my family, my kids, and it still affects me to this day. Like, I can't, every time I see a banana, that's the power of racism. I hate bananas now. Like, may seem funny, but it's just, I want to give my kids a banana. I still give them banana, but it's just, every time I pick it up, it just gives me that sick feeling in your head, knowing that that someone threw this at you, and calling you all these names, and it just takes me straight back. And it'll probably be for the rest of my life. Every time I see a banana, it's going to take me straight back to Adelaide Oval, where the Port supporter threw a banana at me and calling me all those names.
Did you guys know that there is something called racism hotspots? So we all know that racism exists in all aspects of different countries in different parts of the world. And obviously a multicultural country as Australia is not immune to racism. But there are certain hotspots, specifically in certain places, when you're more likely at experiencing racism. A recent SBS article I was reading found that 76% of people have experienced racism. And in those 76% of people, 2/3 of those have experienced an instance where they have had an incident within a period of a month by experiencing racism at a certain location. And then you have the 12% that's just never experienced racism at all. And usually these people are people that lives in wealthy areas that has close proximity to whiteness and certain advantages that just obviously makes them, less likely to experience these differences in treatment. It is believed that the number is actually higher than that, because there is likely a lot of people who do experience racism but never get to talk about it because they see themselves as a victim.
Bro, I don't know why. Underneath every Indigenous Australians TikTok, right? In the comment section, you see these racist white folks, they're at it again. It's like when you see a 7 News video on TikTok or even on social media, and then you see in the comment section where these racist white folks are telling the black dogs to get out of their land. They're so entitled to the fact that they keep forgetting that they invaded this land. They keep forgetting that the natives in this land were just resting here peacefully, minding their own business, like how Africans were before the slave trade. And then they maliciously planned out to destroy native communities by introducing alcohol, right? Alcohol into their communities. They've never ever touched such an evil substance in their life. As if they don't go to the pub every single week, popping a cold.
What does racism in Australia look like as an African American? You're gonna be surprised by this, but Australia actually had a white entry only policy till about the 1970s, which is insane. And because of that, there's not a lot of people that look like me. So I never experienced racism in Australia for the 7 to 8 years that I lived there. However, I am not Asian, and there's a large Asian Australian population that lives there, and I have heard and seen racism there. And I will say, when you're thinking racism, it's completely different from what we experience here in the US. It's very hostile. It could be, physical, verbal, a range of different things. Australia is more subtle. It's more subtle, stereotypical comments that are thrown towards the other races. The other people that I know like definitely experience racism is the Aboriginal, the native population. But like I said, it does look different from the US, like dealing with this really hostile environment. And also some of the hard things that I found is when I would try to call people out for their racist comments about like the Asian population or the Aboriginal population, they say it's factual, which is very frustrating because they've been surrounded by people that look like them, have the same customs majority of their entire life, unless they've grown up in Sydney or grown up in Melbourne. They've never been challenged to question that thought process or that stereotype or that racist comment that they're throwing out. So with all of that being said, I, as an African American, did not experience racism, but I'm also American, and pretty much anywhere you travel in the world, you're gonna get people who also just don't like Americans. And obviously this isn't all Australians, but just an understanding of it.
Always stay ready. As a Black African Australian, it's so hard finding work in Australia or even to be represented by a proper agency. It's hard. They just won't accept people like us.
You think these people accept you as one of their own, but they don't. They don't accept you at all.
They just don't see us. And even as on a network, you will see most of the networks, whether ABC or SBS or Channel 10 or Channel 9, it's hard to see Black people presenting or hosting or even having lead roles or even being in home underwear. It's rare. This they can get is someone who's mixed.
Negro, please. Didn't somebody tell you this was an all-white party?
You won't see a lot of African Australians. They just won't take you. Even opportunities given to us on TV, it's rare. You will find one Black person representing the whole of Africa. And you need to understand Africa is in 56 countries in one continent. Africa is a continent, so it has like how many languages, how many nationalities. So we need all nationalities to be representing, because one person does not represent the whole of Africa.
Get your fucking ass up and work.
As an actress, I make sure I work 10 times harder. Those opportunities are not there. Sometimes you just gotta seek for them. I don't just wait for my agent to find jobs for me. I don't just wait for someone else to give me a handout. I reach out to people, to be honest. You know, and let me tell you about this one day. I went on this website. I was looking for an acting role. The role description was a Black male with a Jamaican accent that can drive a manual car. It's like, okay, not a male, not Jamaican, but I'm gonna apply. Immediately I submitted my audition. So I went and I did my research. I started perfecting that Jamaican accent, you know what I'm saying? Calling up some Jamaican friends. I can't drive a manual, yo. What? This is mine. I went and I paid for a driver to teach me how to drive a manual. I started driving a manual car before I even got a yes. Before I even got it, got back to me after a week. They're like, hey, Suze, this role was for a guy. Well, we're happy to change it into a girl's role. And finally, they said, you've got the role. They said, you've got the role. They flew me to Kubapidi. I flew on the plane with Aaron. Aaron from MacLeod's daughter.
Going to Kubapidi.
Yeah. Kurt gave me an opportunity in that film. And it's because I was ready. I prepared.
We're looking to get to Kubapidi.
Jump in. I'm Elvis.
The real one?
No.
Well, I'm Monday.
Like the real day.
Exactly.
Jump in.
Thanks.
So I moved from Sydney to Canberra, and Sydney is very multicultural. And the first week I moved to Canberra, I had like 3 racial comments just on the street. Not necessarily racist, but pointing out the fact that I was Asian. Because when I'm walking around in Sydney, I don't think I am Asian. Look at my Asianness.
You're way more hyper aware when you're not in that situation.
Yeah, exactly. And just a few people in government who were like, so when did you move to Australia? Your English is really good. I'm like, well, I hope so, because that's the only language I can speak.
Actually shaking. Oh my god. Okay, so I'm in Maroubra right now because I thought, oh, it'd be nice to have a little thrifting day. And I'm in a really small parking lot, and this lady who's clearly been in the parking lot waiting for a spot is kind of blocking the entrance. So I go around her and I'm just waiting at the end of the parking lot, and then I see a car one spot behind me. Someone's about to move out. They put all the shopping in and everything, and then I start blinking because I was like, oh great, I found a spot. Then the lady who had been there waiting for a while starts driving up and puts her indicator on. And then I was like, oh, that's a bit weird, just because like I saw the spot first and, you know, like it was right behind me. I was like, I thought I could have it. And then as the car pulls out, I'm starting to reverse. She comes right behind me and starts beeping at me. And I'm so confused because it was like I saw the spot first. And then she pulls around and rolls the window down. And I explain, I'm just like, hey, sorry, like I already put my indicator on. I was waiting for the spot first. And then she proceeds to be like, but I got here before you. And I was like, yeah, you may have got here before me, but I claimed the spot first. Like I put my indicators on. And I can't believe she was like, just like this country, I got here first. Like I am Australian. Like my background is full Chinese, but I just didn't think in this day or age, like racism could hit so hard. It was just such a confronting experience. Anyways, I proceeded to get another parking spot.
Every time I leave Western Sydney, and to be honest, when I leave Sydney, I literally experience racism like 100% of the time. So there was one time I was doing this trip with my boys and we're going to Melbourne, and along the way we stopped at Albury. Now, when I went to Albury, we were looking for some food, right? And everyone was just staring at us. And to be honest, look, that's not racist. I guess sometimes people just haven't seen people look like us. So look, fair enough, whatever, right? Anyway, we go into a pharmacy. The cashier looked at the manager and they did something with their eyes, and the cashier walked up to me like really cautiously and she said, what do you want from here? Right now, firstly, what the hell? That's like really rude. But secondly, I was like, oh, look, I'm just looking around. And she's like, what in particular are you looking around for? And I was like, oh, I don't know, like a chocolate. And she's like, the chocolate's at the front, right? Which is to say, don't walk around a shop or something. And I just left the shop. Every single person after that, like the next 15 people into the shop, they just walked down freely and they just got a good morning. Whereas I got like an escort through the shop basically. And then recently I was at Port Macquarie with my mum and my sister, and I remember I parked my car outside the hotel and it was right next to a police station, and there was a police officer smiling at everyone, and when he saw me, he stared at me like this. And as he's crossing the road, he just kept staring at me like this. And I was like, what the hell? And then he legit went back to smiling, and then he looked back at me like this, like, I'm like, what the hell did I do? I literally just parked my car in a normal parking spot, right? The next day we went on this cruise, and on the cruise, everyone was amazing. This cruise service was a brilliant cruise service, right? But there was one guy who was giving out, there was a time when they were giving out like fruit salad, right? And so we went to the guy to get some fruit, and then he said, what do you want? And we said, look, we'll get some watermelon. And I said, can we get like 3 or 4 pieces? And he's like, other people need to eat as well. Let's just start with 1 piece each, right? Like 1 slither of watermelon for me and my sister each, right? And then what else do you want? And I'm like, oh, I guess some kiwi fruit and strawberry. He gave us 1/2 of a strawberry each and 1 slice of this small of kiwi fruit each, right? And I kid you not, I looked at the next person who went past me, and this is what that person got. They got like literally 10 times what we got, and that was for 1 person. And to us, he was so stern. And that's not all. After that, they were giving me ice cream, and then they were giving out like these toppings and stuff. And they asked my sister, like, what do you want? The same person, the same guy. And she was like, oh, I guess I'll get some of the, the jelly stuff and all that. And he started giving it. And then she wanted a particular thing, and you could choose what you want, right? And she's like, oh, could I get like this one? He's like, sorry. And she's like, could I get that particular jelly? He's like, next time, speak up, right? He didn't give it. He just chucked on a jelly that was next to the one she wanted. He didn't give the right one. All he had to say was, next time, speak up. And that's all he get. And to all the other kids, everyone else, all the adults, so happily, hey, how are you? I hope you're enjoying the cruise. I don't know if this is a universal experience for those who live in West Sydney, but like, that's what we experience like every time I leave Western Sydney.
If you're coming to Melbourne, fear not. There's not much Asian kids here. If you're living in the city, everywhere you see are Asians. There's hardly any like Australians that you will see in the city centre. Unless you're living in the suburbs, then that's different. But I feel like the suburbs, Melbournians are chill. Like they're very accepting and very welcoming. But if you're going to Sydney, brace yourself. Just brace yourself. I've heard so many horror stories of people going to Sydney for exchange or for like holidays and getting so much Asian hate. Like, it's scary out there. I think Brisbane is also really fine. There's a lot of Asians there too. Adelaide is a very quiet town, so you might have some Asian haze there, because when I was driving over to Adelaide on like a road trip, we did experience some, but it's not too bad that we want to like we're afraid of our life and stuff like that. The people in Melbourne are really nice. Let me stress that again. Melbourne Australians are the best Australians so far, especially the people from the suburbs, like some suburbs. Yeah.
Level, there's a deep-rooted racism in Australia.
Racism all the time, everywhere. Racism, you cannot say race not exist, because even having a post, I post about one thing, I just do Asian accent. A lot of people in the comment want to take it further. Some is a funny one. A lot of my comment, they say, some say they have a dog in him.
A dog in him. Oh,
but that's one. It's a very funny.
Still a bit. You can't say that in
we'll leave
public.
that one.
Look, yeah.
For me, look, my humor, I like to do a little bit.
Bit on the edge, controversial.
I have never experienced racism in Australia. 3, 2, 1.
I disagree, because I have. In primary school, this kid used to call me Blackie. So that's my first time I experienced it. It's made me feel bad, you know. That's not my name.
I definitely disagree. I feel like ever since I was like 11, 12 years old, I've been experiencing racism. You know, especially by the police. You know, I remember I got searched at 12 years old because I didn't pay for my train ticket. And I was with a couple of my homeboys. We therefore had police coming at us, guard dogs, all that stuff trying to search us for drugs when we're just a couple of teenagers, not even teenagers. And I don't think it's right for us to experience that stuff at such a young age.
Story time. I'm ethnic Lebanese living on the northern beaches, so super curious. That comment is on the video where it shows that my family won an AVO against a white supremacist neighbour. I'm Greek Australian, and like a lot of Greeks after the war, my family went to Surrey Hills and Darlinghurst, and the story goes they accidentally went through Wakers Parkway and found a spot, bought a milk bar, and we've been there ever since. People that used to go to my family's milk bar would throw money at them and say things like, "Hey wog, cook me a bag of chips." My dad was bashed at the local high school for being a wog. There was no TikTok, no social media, no cameras, nothing like that. These people couldn't be held accountable. I get it was a different time, but it doesn't make it right, because we were paid to come here and we made it our home and we helped build this country. I say white supremacists because these people think that they are biologically superior to us. I'm not saying everybody on the northern beaches is racist. I'm not. Do I think there's casual racism? Of course. We've just proven it. If someone's being racist towards you, defend yourself. It's 2023. This crap can't still be going on. Anyway, that's just my story. I hope if someone's seen this and you're copying the same thing, I hope this helps you.
Something that we as Nepalese people don't really talk about when we talk about life in abroad, especially like in Australia, is the racism that we face by people who live in Australia. And I don't mean Australian people. I don't mean just Australian people. I mean, in general, people who live in Australia are quite racist towards brown people. Also, people who look like obvious Kalko brown. I do have a privilege on that because more obviously like more brown dekhdiन more like Aryan Kalko मेरो अनुहार छैन मेरो अनुहार Mongolian Kalko छ हैन. So money racism feel गर्छु, but like not as the same amount as people who look like obvious Kalko brown. On top of that, if you're not fluent in English and if you have an accent, which like a lot of us do, like a lot of us have an accent because obviously English isn't our first language. That when people see that, oh, you know, you have brown features, you're a brown person, and on top of that you don't know English properly, then people are racist towards you. And sometimes racism isn't just like up to market garne ani muk chhadne khalko. It's not just like obvious khalko. It's like subtle khalko racism at work, when you're working, when you're studying, among your own peers, among your own co-workers. There's so much going on that people don't really recognize it. Ani hami jab like when we come to Australia, we treat Australia as a second country, obviously, because we're not from that country, Nita. So we're already like very timid. Okay, a lot of men here are very timid and they don't speak out a lot. They don't talk a lot. Like upon a मैले एउटा नेपाली मान्छे भेटे मैले काममा पनि उहाँहरूको पर्सनालिटी हैन मसँग हुँदाखेरि बिकज म नेपाली भएर उहाँहरूको पर्सनालिटी एक्चुअली निस्किन्छ अनि उहाँहरू त कस्तो आउटगोइङ कस्तो बोल्ने खालको मान्छेहरू हुन्छन् हैन तर जब उहाँहरू एउटा लाइक इंग्लिश स्पिकिङ मान्छेसँग बोल्नु पर्यो भने अब इन्सिक्योर हुने के अब इट्स अभियस हैन लाइक भइन्छ मान्छेहरू तर लाइक इन्सिक्योर भएर अनि राम्ररी बोल्न नसक्ने हुन्छ नि हैन अनि जब तपाईहरु राम्ररी बोल्न सक्नुहुन्न काममा आफ्नो साथीहरुसँग कलेजेसहरुमा देन मान्छेहरुले झन हेप्न थाल्छन् के त्यसको माथि दिस इज सच अ बिग इश्यू टु टक अबाउट हैन तर माई सजेसन अन दिस इज सबै मान्छेहरु सबै नेपालीहरु लाइक वी कान्ट एक्सपेक्ट आवरसेल्व्स टु बी फ्लुएन्ट इन इंग्लिश के तर what you need to understand is मान्छेहरुलाई थाहा छ कि like people can tell कि English isn't your first language भनेर तर don't let that be a barrier क्या बरु English fluently आउँदैन भने broken English नै बोल्नु तर be loud take up space लजाएर नबस्नु if somebody like भन कसैले हेप्यो अथवा like काममा कसैले like if somebody is abusing you somebody is like to literally like bully गरिरहेछ भने हैन just because तपाईं बोल्न सक्नुहुन्न भने हैन तपाईं इंग्लिश राम्ररी बोल्न सक्नुहुन्न don't let that stop you you have to be loud you have to take up space and you have to be really unapologetic about the fact that you are not an English speaking person for example when I really struggle with like you have your own bad days right and sometimes I have like really bad days and I can't like figure out the words in English like दिमागमा नेवारी word आइराउँछ कहिलेकाहीँ नेपाली word आइराउँछ and I forget that word in English हैन अनि कहिलेकाहीँ pronunciation off हुन्छ नि हैन and then somebody is like oh you're not supposed to pronounce it like that you're supposed to pronounce it like this भनेर भन्यो भने you just simply say you know English is my first language right I literally just tell him that I'm just like you know English is my first language right English is my third language so अनि त्यो भन्ने बित्तिकै like they just shut up because मान्छेहरुले जति तपाईहरुलाई हेप्न दियो they just झन्झन हेप्न थाल्छन् क्या so you have to speak up
Get ready with me while I talk about what it is like to be an Indian living in Australia. I just want to make a disclaimer before I start. I am extremely grateful to be able to live in Australia. However, I'm still allowed to talk about my negative experiences that I've had in this country. The last couple of posts definitely generated a lot of very vicious, hateful comments. All I have to say to that is thank you because you're just giving me more and more engagement. Let's get into it. So first thing on the list, my family and I got this graffiti. I'm gonna put it right here on our back fence one day, like out of nowhere. There's this little strip, like a nature pathway to walk through that's behind my house and it separates my house from the next house. Quite a popular walking path. In fact, I walk it every single day and that's the only reason I saw it one day because I went on my daily walk. Now, the only thing that I can think of is maybe because that path is near a high school, maybe some kids or something heard my dad on the phone outside one day and, you know, they heard that he has an Indian accent and that's why they graffitied that. Now, eventually the council, I think, just removed the graffiti because it's no longer there and now there's a big blob of paint that covers it. When I was, I think, like 11 or 12, my best friend, her and I were trying to plan what we could do out of school one day because we had like one of those, you know, teacher marking days. And I had asked her if we could go to her house and she said, yeah, you can come over, but you'll have to leave by 4. And I was like, oh, why do I have to leave by 4? And she straight up told me it's because her mum does not like Indian people. And then I actually encountered a very similar feeling the next year when one of our friends was having a birthday party and it was a bit far from my house. And I had asked the girl if I could stay at her house after the party. And she told me, I don't know if my mum would be comfortable with having someone like you stay at our house. She didn't say that her mum disliked Indians or anything, but I knew what she meant by that. The thing is that it is so much easier to say, oh, I wouldn't let those kind of things affect me. It is very easy to say that those kind of things aren't a big deal or whatever because they aren't in the grand scheme of things. There are people going through way worse. But a lasting effect from things like that happening is I genuinely just by default believe that people will not like me because I'm Indian. It makes me insecure. Not insecure, but I just feel very out of place even if I don't show it, even if I have so many beautiful friends who aren't racist. It is very hard to not second guess everyone and whether they actually like me or not. And I know it sounds really stupid, but that is kind of just ingrained in my head. These little instances I had of my friends' parents not wanting me to come to their house or whatever. Not being liked because of the country that you're from really just breaks a person's confidence. Last year when I had booked my first holiday to India, I actually had a couple of people ask me, why are you going to India? And the question really just pissed me off because it's like, why do you go anywhere? Like, why do you choose anywhere for a holiday? I've chosen India because there are so many great things about going to India, and I'm from there. Like, I'm from India. Why would I not want to go to the country? I had this one girl in particular who was just notorious for being racist. She literally was like to me, I've had friends that have backpacked through rural Africa, rural Australia, and they've been to India and they've said they'd never set foot in India again in their life. She's trying to tell me that there's nothing to do in India, but she's never been to India in her life. I genuinely looked at her and I asked her what she wanted me to do with that information. One of my supposed best friends, who we do not talk at all anymore, her boyfriend would always make jokes about me getting an arranged marriage, which firstly, my parents did not get an arranged marriage and they don't have plans to arrange a marriage for me. He also would take it one step further and he'd always say, oh, I'm gonna marry my cousin. Like, he'd always just make jokes about me having a planned arranged marriage with my cousin. And then when I went to India, anytime I would post on Be Real with my cousin or my cousin's friends or anything, he would always comment on it and be like, oh, is this your arranged marriage setup? Honestly, was I beaten up over these comments? No. I have made peace with the fact that I am a joke to a lot of people. Making jokes about my ethnicity doesn't surprise me at all. What hurt me more than these comments, my supposed best friend not sticking up for me at all. She didn't pull her boyfriend up on these comments, not one single time. She actually would just laugh like, ha 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 ha, oh my god, he's so funny. And she'd say things like, oh, he's really bad, like he's actually really racist, like it's really funny. Another thing I wanted to quickly touch on, a lot of people in my comments were liking to say that there is a lot of racism within the Indian community. I definitely know that there is a lot of racism and discrimination within the Indian community, and I'm not taking away from that at all. The point of my videos is to talk about the racism towards all of us as a whole, all of the South Asian community as a whole, because as a lot of the comments on my last post say, Australia is an extremely racist country.
So as we've seen so many videos, so many people talking about their experiences being people of color in Australia, and let us know and let us not forget that the indigenous people of Australia are the Torres Islanders and the Aboriginals, who make up a population of about 900,000 plus people. And these Aboriginals especially, they do face a lot of racism. There is a certain guy who was talking about racism hotspots in Australia, and to my surprise, Sydney is a racism hotspot in Australia. And I came to learn that a lot of these Aboriginals face a lot of racism in Australia. And also, it is not easy as a black person to get employed in Australia. You will face a lot of challenges. If you're a person of color, either Asian, Arab, African, you're going to face these challenges. So something that I don't understand is the white man went to Australia and invaded a land that was originally inhabited by the Aboriginals and the Torres Islanders, people of the salt waters. So it doesn't make sense to me. How come you go to a place, you invade these people, they just mind their own business, and then you start being racist towards them? It doesn't make sense to me. There is a video here. Let us watch it. This is an Aboriginal boy who was from a football match and actual football training, and he was bullied actually. He was bullied. He was called a monkey, you know. And we've seen a video previously. A certain footballer who was thrown bananas at. You know, this guy was in the pitch, and you find out that these people they throw bananas at him. They call him a monkey. But let us know that, let the white people have respect towards the people of color in Australia, because I think Australia is a multicultural country right now, and it doesn't make sense people being racist to each other at this age and time, you know. So it really baffles me when I see people being racist to the others, you know. No man is an island. You cannot live without depending on each other. So like, if you're racist to an Aboriginal, if you're racist to an Asian, you are racist to a Chinese, to a Korean, to a Palestine, you are being racist to an Arab. You know, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. This is a new era. This is a new age. People are supposed to coexist peaceful with peace. They coexist peacefully, harmoniously, and they should love each other. And of course, there is a lot of cooperation that comes about with it. So this is a wake-up call to the white people who invaded Australia. Stop being racist. Stop being racist. There is a certain video I know most of you are going to relate with it. Let us watch this video. This is the video here. So this video really trended last year. It really trended for a better part of last year actually, and this was an MP actually in the parliament in Australia. She was trying to make the haka chance, you know, and they were actually telling the white people in Australia, those people are not indigenous in Australia. They were telling them that you guys came here and invaded us. You guys, you are outsiders, so you're supposed to respect us. But I think people, it's high time they coexist peacefully, and yeah, we're going to make a good world where each and every person can live in. All right. So most definitely, if you're new to this channel, I'll ask you to like, share, and subscribe, so that the algorithm of YouTube can be favorable to me, and my channel, my videos can be suggested as many times as possible, so that we can keep on having a conversation about this. This is Awaken Africa. Let us meet in the next video. I love you guys. Thank you. Peace out.